Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get started. This is a hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Pelham. Everyone present will be given the opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. Please address your comments and questions through the chair, which is myself. This public meeting has been called to satisfy the requirements of the Planning Act and Council bylaws. Notice of this meeting has been given by prepaid first-class mail to all persons listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 60 meters or 200 feet of the subject properties. In addition, a public notice sign has been posted on the lands. Agencies commenting on applications may request that certain conditions be imposed should the application be approved. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. The process for tonight, the purpose of the application and relative correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given the opportunity to address the application. Any person concerned with the application will then be given the opportunity to speak. Please state your name and mailing address for the record. At the conclusion of discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Specific wording for conditions will be determined by the committee following the public portion of this hearing. All interested parties are invited to stay and be present. Copies of decisions will be mailed to the applicant or agent and to any other person who files a written request. There are colored forms. Are they over there? They're over there. Okay. There are colored forms for this purpose which are available on the back table. Any person, corporation, or public body has the right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent to the Ontario Municipal Board within 20 days of the decision for minor variances and within 20 days of the mailing of the decision for consent applications. The hearing panel tonight is Mr. Brian DeMyrtle on my far left, Mr. Don Cook to my immediate left, and I'm James Federico. Does any member of this panel have a pecuniary interest in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act in any of the applications being considered at this hearing?
No, none, Mr. Chairman.
And I have none.
Thank you.
Are there any okay, I'll ask the question, then we'll get to it. Are there any requests for withdrawal or adjournment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have received a request on file B14 2016P for Dahan Homes Incorporated to defer their application at this time.
We can't hear you.
My apologies. We have received a request to defer the application for file B14 2000P Dahan Homes. That's the Canberra Road application. So the committee will make a decision on whether to defer.
Okay. Is there anyone here in the audience who's interested in that application? Okay, yes, you were the...
Yes, my name's Ken Gagne of Upper Canada Consultants on behalf of the applicants. We requested a deferral because the Conservation Authority raised a couple of questions and needed some time to address those questions, so we asked for a deferral till another hearing so we can deal with that.
Okay.
We need a motion to that effect.
Okay, so if we're going to...
Mr. Chairman, based on the comments of Mr. Gagne, I move that the application be deferred.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Okay.
Thank you. And we have also received a request from Mr. Gagne to waive the rescheduling fee of $207. So committee will need to make a decision on that, please. Whether to impose or waive.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think the fees should be imposed.
I agree with that because this is a major application, and I think there's going to be considerable correspondence that's going to need to be printed by the town, and I think that the best interest of the town, the applicant should repay the fee.
Okay. I guess we'll need a motion to that effect.
I move that the fees should be imposed.
Okay. Seconder? All in favor?
You have a
Oh,
question?
yes.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah. Yes.
If you wish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, the reason for the deferral is that there was a pre-consultation meeting where the Conservation Authority and all the government agencies were at the pre-consultation meeting to discuss the application. And the matter of the location of the lot line was not questioned by anybody. And it suddenly came up after the application was submitted, so that's why we're suggesting that there shouldn't be an extra fee, because we're submitting the application as it was originally shown at the pre-con meeting.
Pardon, could you?
Yeah,
if
actually, can you,
Mr. Chair?
yes. Can you come up to the microphone here or come, yeah,
Okay.
right there's
I'm
fine.
sorry. Originally, there was a pre-consultation meeting a number of months ago before the application was submitted. And at that meeting was the Conservation Authority and all the government departments and agencies that are concerned about these types of items. And there was no mention about the location of the lot lines with regards to the application. Suddenly, after the application was submitted, the Conservation Authority questioned the lot line and suggested the lot line that goes through the ravine should not go through the ravine. So they asked us to reconsider that, so we said we would, and they asked for some additional information. So it's taking time for us to deal with the additional information, which requires us to ask for a deferral. So the reason why we don't think a fee should be required is because this issue wasn't raised at the pre-consultation meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Still need a vote on that motion.
Right, so we still have the motion on the floor. Do you have any? How do we want to do this? We still have the motion on the floor. I guess we will still need a vote on the motion as proposed. So,
We have the motion.
We have the motion on the floor. We need to
just
vote
have
on
to
it. So,
vote,
yes.
And somebody can reject
all in
that,
favor
yeah.
of the motion to impose the fees? That's the vote. Okay,
No, I didn't put my hand up.
right.
No, so
It
2
was
of 3.
2 to 1, okay. Okay, so with that, deferral's granted. We are gonna impose the fees of the $204,
7.
$7, and we will see you back after the deferral.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're through the withdrawal. Okay, so now we will move on to file number A15 2016P, Kevin and Carol Hachkowski. Are the representatives here for that application? Can you please have a seat over here? And then please state your name for the record.
Nick from 2M Architects.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Madam Secretary Treasurer, can you read the correspondence, please?
Yes. The following are excerpts from the Town of Pelham Planning Report. The subject land is located on the west side of Timber Creek Crescent, lying east of Line Avenue, being part of Plan 59M298, Lot 1, and known municipally as 2 Timber Creek Crescent in the Town of Pelham. The subject land is zoned residential 1-166, R1166. The minor variance application requests relief from the general provisions of the Town of Pelham zoning bylaw. Section 6.1B, location of accessory building to reduce the required exterior side yard setback from 4 meters to 1.2 meters to accommodate a proposed shed. And section 6.35C, yard encroachments to permit a rear yard encroachment of 4.7 meters for the proposed covered porch, whereas 1.5 meters is currently allowed. The effective setback distance to the porch would become 2.8 meters. The Committee of Adjustment in Section 45(1) of the Planning Act may authorize a minor variance from the provisions of the bylaw, subject to the following considerations. The variance is minor in nature. The proposal to reduce the exterior side yard setback for the accessory structure is minor in nature, considering adequate open amenity space remains available and the scale of the shed is still secondary in massing to that of the house. The variance to permit a larger rear yard encroachment for an extended covered porch is minor overall given the neighboring public property to the rear. Line Avenue and the Steve Bauer Trail flank the rear yard, and numerous trees act as a buffer between the houses. The variance is desirable for the development or use of the land. The reduction of the required exterior side yard setback for the accessory structure will allow the property owners to continue to store personal belongings such as lawn equipment, which will help to maintain property standards, in turn providing desirable for the subject land. Permitting a rear yard encroachment of 4.7 meters from a required maximum of 1.5 meters to construct a covered porch is desirable for the site because it improves the rear yard amenity space without negatively affecting neighbors. The variance maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Reducing the required exterior side yard for the proposed shed maintains the general objective of the official plan by sustaining a scale that is compatible with the neighborhood. The shed size is permissible by bylaw and secondary in scale to that of the dwelling. Enlarging the rear yard encroachment for the proposed covered porch does not compromise the intent of the official plan because the addition will not negatively affect any neighboring resident sightlines or sun exposure. The interior side yard setback is maintained and numerous trees border the lot, shielding the rear and exterior side yards. The variance maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Reducing the required exterior side yard setback for the proposed accessory structure maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw by preserving a distance separation between surrounding uses, which may be sensitive. No adverse impacts are anticipated by neighboring properties or users of the Steve Bauer Trail. Enlarging the rear yard encroachment for the proposed covered porch does not compromise the intent of the zoning bylaw because some spatial separation is maintained between the rear yard lot line and users of Line Avenue or the Steve Bauer Trail. The footprint of the proposed porch will actually be in line with the existing deck and pergola structure with respect to the interior side lot line. Despite a lack of elevation drawings in the application, the owner has expressed how the new covered porch will actually step down from the ground floor of that house, in effect having a lower roof line than the existing pergola structure. Ultimately, despite it having a larger footprint, the proposed porch is planned to be shorter than the existing pergola's roof and be contiguous with that of the dwelling's pitch. To date, the following comments have been received. The Building Department. All necessary permits and approvals are required prior to construction commencing. Public Works Department requests that the applicant provide a detailed grading plan for the site prior to the issuance of a building permit, including proposed locations of downspouts to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. Comments were received from 3 neighboring residents, G. Hamilton, D. and J. Orr, and C. Carmichael, which are summarized as follows. The proposal is too large and the scale is not appropriate for the lot. Planning's response: the proposed structures are smaller than the dwelling and adequate open space remains. Increasing the lot coverage to 38% is excessive. Planning's response: the R1166 zone permits a total of 40% lot coverage. The size of the addition is not desirable. And planning's response: there is no evidence to suggest this, however the proposal appears to improve the livability of the amenity area. The proposal is not in keeping with the architecturally controlled character of Timber Creek Estates. There are no architecturally controlled guidelines sanctioned by the town in place for the Timber Creek Estates development. The residential intensification proposed is neither respectful nor compatible with the existing development. Planning's response: technically, residential intensification is designed as a net increase in residential housing units. No new dwellings are proposed. The notices were only mailed to a few residents and the posted sign and hearing time are not convenient. Planning's response: mailed notices are only required for property owners within 60 meters of the subject land as per the Planning Act. It is unfair to allow the tasteful architecture of our neighborhood and property values to erode. Planning's response: there is no evidence to suggest either of these assumptions would ever happen. There is already a shed on the property and the new shed is big enough for a car garage. Planning's response: the mailed notice illustrated the removal of the existing shed and there is no definitional difference between a shed or garage under the term accessory structure. The owner has responded indicating the accessory building will be used as a storage shed and not as a garage. Bylaws should not be tampered with without just cause. Planning's response: bylaws are always being updated and altered to suit different contexts. Minor variance provisions are provided for by the Planning Act. Planning staff is of the opinion that the application meets the 4 minor variance tests laid out by the Planning Act. The subject application is consistent with provincial guidelines, provincial policies, the regional official plan, and complies with the general intent of the town's official plan and zoning bylaw. The authorization of the minor variance is not expected to generate negative impacts on adjacent uses and on the community at large. Consequently, planning staff recommend that application file number A15 2016P be approved, subject to the following condition: that the applicant submit a detailed grading plan prior to the issuance of a building permit, including proposed locations of downspouts, to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. And that is the consolidated planning report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'll ask the representative to comment on the structure.
Mr. Chair. First of all, to yourself, Mr. Chair, the members of the committee, and to those in the audience, I apologize on behalf of the Hatchkowskis who couldn't be here. They had organized a trip not knowing the date of this because it hadn't been set, and they could not back out, so they expressed their apology for not being here because they wanted to be here in person. Secondly, I'm in agreement with what was presented. I think it was very clear and straightforward. However, sometimes in lingo and in reading architectural drawings, things get somewhat confusing and hard to understand. So I brought a couple images to just clarify things that I would just like to show. The pink represents the back of the existing house, if everyone can see that. The green represents an existing shed that's on the property. And the green in this location is the location of an existing pergola and open deck. So currently the shed looks like this in their backyard. And you can see its proximity to the pergola that is there. In fact, this particular image shows the end of the pergola and the shed. And this particular image shows the back of the house with the pergola that is there. So what was discussed is merely to take and remove this shed, remove the pergola and the open deck that is there, shown in green, and replace it with a new one shown in blue. So the new one will not go as close to the rear yard as the current shed already does. And as you can see, the existing pergola plus the shed project much further into the backyard than what is being proposed. And what is being proposed is a covered but open porch on all sides supported by columns. And I have an email, if I may just read it from the Hatchkowskis themselves, and they just said, I would like to express, sorry, the lighting's poor and I'm getting older here. I would like to express that the rear shed will be for storage only, as any backyard shed would be for storage, and not constructed as a garage with a roll-up door for storage only. The existing 10 by 10 shed will be removed as indicated in the mailing. Also, I would like to express to any concerned parties that the driveway will not be laid along the south wall of the house. That's the existing driveway that stops at the front of the house, will not be laid along the south of the house to reach the backyard, and a walkway or a path is being considered by in their landscape plan. I also do not understand I also do understand that an assumption is expressed that their motorhome will be permanently stored there. Along the south side of the house, this has no bearing on the matter at hand, and they confirm that their current mobile home is always safely stored off-site and is only brought to the residence directly before and after They're planning a holiday to prepare it and wash it down. So there is no intention of expanding the driveway and permanently storing their mobile home there if there are any concerns in that, and no plans to extend the driveway through and use this new shed for any kind of garage purposes. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions? Or do we do the audience first? Okay. Okay, yes. All right. At this point, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on this application? Okay. Yes, if you wish to comment on this application, please approach the podium here.
Yes.
And state your name and address for the record.
Can you hear me?
A little louder.
A little louder?
Yes, please. That's good.
Okay. I would ask the indulgence of the committee members and so on to...
Before you get started, can you just state your name and address for the record?
Oh, yes. Dale Orr,
Okay.
91 Timber Creek Crescent.
Right.
Yes. Okay. I would ask the indulgence of the committee because I have suffered a stroke in the past 5 years, and you may find that my speech is halted and slurred at times, but I need to get through this, okay? And it's not that I'm drunk, it's that I'm a bit, say, brain damaged, but I'm not stupid. My problem with the application has always been that I live directly across from the Hatchcoaties, and I am privy to seeing all their activities all the time through 5 windows that are on that side. So my wife and I see everything that they do all the time, like it or not. And they have a great deal of vehicular let's call it commotion all the time. Cars in and out and so on and so forth. And my main reason is that I have not really wanted to see, that's kind of awkward, them extend that in any way into the backyard. So when I saw the application and I saw the positioning of the new shed, garage, apparently the terms are interchangeable, a big red flag went up in terms of the possibilities that that could present down the road at least. And my question is, even though Mr. Hatchkowski has said there is basically no reason to believe that he would want to use it as a garage, my question is, can the plan that he has for that shed in the future be altered his plan now, obviously, he wants to propose that as a garden shed. But when you look at the plan in the future, the footprint can be altered. And I would like to know if it can be altered, will it be or can it be altered in the future? The removal of the gate, the drawing forth of the garage, not backwards, and drawing it to the right-hand side, he could build quite a sizable garage. That is my fear, because at the present time, there's way too much activity. And the numbers actually speak for themselves. He has so many garage slots and so many cars that have to be covered or garaged. So I would like those questions, if possible, answered, if you can.
Certainly, if I may,
Sure.
Mr. Chair. I'd just like to read the opening line, and I'm happy to give this copy of this email through to the town if they wish. And it says, I would like to express that the rear shed will be for storage as any backyard shed would be used, and not constructed as a garage with a roll-up door, storage only, and that the existing shed will be removed. So he's clearly saying,
Yeah.
as any backyard shed, I can't speak on,
No.
but he's saying, and will not be constructed as a garage.
May I
To what you might
I
do
answer
with
to
your
that.
house in the future, or I might do with my house in the future, or the Hadjkowskis, I don't think we can restrict that in any way, other than to say whatever is proposed in the future would have to go through the appropriate channels for review and approval.
Yes.
But they are clearly stating that it would not be used and that the driveway would not be extended.
At the present time.
Right, as part of this
Yes,
application, it
yes,
absolutely wouldn't
absolutely.
be.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, he has said in writing, apparently according to this, exactly that. But how firm is that? And as you've just pointed out, it's not firm in terms of the future.
But in terms of the meeting tonight, we're certainly
Yes.
here only to address this application, and then anything further, a new driveway, a further expansion of this building that he's doing, even modifications to the building, would have to come back for permit and come back for minor variance.
Sorry. The point I'm trying to make is if he is given the change setbacks, that would allow him to build a larger garage or what have you, right in line with the present gate.
But not without another application.
Right.
So
But-
he wouldn't be able to, this application is only for this structure. These setbacks apply to this structure. If he wanted to build more, he would have to come right back through this process.
Right, I can certainly appreciate that, but my question is, if he gets those setbacks, are they permanent?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that would mean if he wants those setbacks for this apparent shed or garage,
Not a garage, shed.
that will allow him to do what he might want to do. And that is my fear, and my wife's, because we watch it all the time. So we don't really know about the future, but we are afraid about the future, obviously.
Right, and in that case, as we say, and as has been pointed out in the application, he's moving to 38% lot coverage.
Yeah.
He really can't put much more structure up there without further variances, further approvals. To put a new driveway in, there's going to be setbacks required for that he would have to get approved. So, and it is outside of the scope of this meeting to worry about potential future applications. I have a question actually along these lines.
Yeah.
This building's 11 foot 6 by 18 feet. Looking at the plan, I see that there's a little scoop out section for a covered porch.
That is correct.
Any idea how long that covered porch is going to be? Deep? So now we're taking that 11 foot 6 dimension and reducing it to,
I would say it's approximately 3.5 to 4 feet, just to give a shadow line and a protected sort of seating area.
Right.
That if the sun, because my understanding is that the sun, when it sweeps around, sort of bakes the pool area.
right.
And then that would allow them to sit shaded there and would reduce the width of that shed so that you
So we're talking like a
couldn't
9
get
foot.
a garage
right.
door in. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's,
So the capacity of that yard is in fact 40%, isn't it?
Right.
This would put him at 38%. Now, given the projected footprint that we see on the plan of that particular shed garage, how much larger could he make that, given that extra 2%?
Yeah, this is outside of the scope of the meeting. I really,
Yeah, well,
speculation.
yeah, we're here to consider the application that's in front of us.
yeah, okay,
And we certainly understand, and we certainly, there's not
yeah.
going to be anything kind of brought in without going through this application process again.
I cannot argue that. It seems to be a slam dunk, and it probably is, and he probably expected that. And neighbors aren't really allowed to give projections, really. It's outside of your mandate, right?
Absolutely. I mean,
Okay, so, but neighbors do watch and see, like you do not. And so we have fears, and we do make projections and possibilities, because that crescent has homes on it valued at probably around $60 million. And if he does make changes in the future, and this is what most of us are afraid of, that will impact upon the economy of each and every one of us.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Orr. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'll just say that if, Town of Pelham has pretty substantial bylaws for vehicles, and we have noise bylaws, and we have, like I say, you can't have we have property maintenance standard bylaws, and if Mr. Hachikowski is in violation of those, perhaps that's a better path for you.
But there is no violation expected, because he has told me that he can pave his entire backyard if he wants to. And that is probably true. And he can park as many as
Right.
cars as possible.
Which is outside of the scope. Mr. DeMyrtle, do you have anything to add?
I was just going to say, I find it kind of contradictory. You have a lot of, you view a lot of activity there with a lot of cars.
Yes, not me, him.
Yes, but you view it. And in this case, if this so-called auxiliary building goes up, we pass this, he could easily put some of those vehicles in the back, but you're afraid that he might put those vehicles in the back on his private backyard, where there would be less activity and commotion as you described earlier. So I see that as a contradiction, sorry.
I'm afraid of the activity between his present garages and if he builds something else. Cars have to get in and out and so on. So I'm concerned about the possible activity, which is
More activity.
Right, which as we say, is not in our mandate, as you
I know,
succinctly
I know.
put it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other parties here that wish to comment on the application? Come on up, state your name and address for the record.
My name's Tony Chanfrani, and I live next door at 4 Timber Creek.
Okay,
I have a sort of a different concern. Just, we're talking about the existing porch that's there now. And the previous owners, every time they went on vacation, they had 2 sons. They would have these crazy parties that were very loud. And I live just next door.
right.
And my bedroom is actually in the back corner. So when the parents were gone for a week, it would be loud for a week.
Right.
And the porch was a little bit smaller. So I actually don't, I know the existing porch is smaller, but it's running along my property, extending backward. They could extend it along their back as far as they want. I don't really care, because they could be as loud as they want, because they're night people. I go to bed early because I get up early.
Right.
So that's my big concern. So I don't really want to allow that variance, the setback back there. They could have their porch to as far as they want, and they could go as far back along their house as far as they want. I don't really care. That's my first concern. And my second one is with both sheds and this one. Like right now, if you walk down, like in the inner street of Timber Creek, the inner block, and if you walk down that street going towards my house or between our houses, the existing thing that's there, that shed and that existing structure that's currently there, it's pretty hideous. Like, to be polite, like the pieces of that pergola has gone flying into my property in the past.
Right.
It's pretty bad. I know he does really nice stuff, but still, there's like a gate that you can still see it. I don't think any structure should be where it's visible when you walk around. They should be behind people's houses. That's my second other concern. So even that shed that he proposes, so I'm walking down in the inner block, then I'm leaving the neighborhood, and you're going to see this other new shed that he's proposing.
Right.
I don't think either of them should be present, because there's a lot of activity in the neighborhood, first of all. People come in and out, people come bike. There's a lot of kids come in and out. I'm surprised nothing's happened yet, but there's a lot of activities, because it's sort of a closed street. There's no really traffic. So a lot of kids from neighborhoods come in there and just ride around, skateboard, whatever.
Okay,
And
right.
but I think just, and people walk by, I just don't think any of these sheds should be allowed to go, they should be behind the houses. I don't think there should be an extension going outward, and I don't think it should be further back, because it could be seen even more than it is now.
Okay,
So that's why I'm opposed to it.
okay, and
And the fact that I want to sleep. I go to bed early, like I said.
Right.
And I know the bylaws are 9:30. I don't want to, I'll call all you guys if there's noise after 9:30. I'm not going to call because I know there's the bylaws 9:30, right? Is that what it is? You guys will get calls from me. I'll get all your names now before I leave, because they're up late at night and I'm not. So I have to get up to work.
Just point of clarification, you said the previous owners had 2 young sons that had parties?
Yeah, all the times. I
And
never
then
called once.
the Houchakowskis also?
No, not them, just the previous owners.
Okay,
And because, and the structure's going to be larger and
Right.
further back.
right,
So it's gonna, the noise is gonna carry.
right,
And I have young kids,
okay,
and the previous guys, they swore a lot with all their friends and stuff, and I don't think that's appropriate, and he has a young son that's inappropriate as already, and he's only 10, so,
okay,
I'm just could see the future already.
right, okay. Thank you.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman.
Go ahead.
Just one comment on noise. Noise is a problem,
Yeah.
granted. My sons did the same thing when we were away. My neighbor used to call 911.
Did you really?
The police would come, and there are a number of noise complaints against 1632 Pelham Street, Font Hill. Over the years, my sons have all moved out, okay, it's just the 2 of us now, so there are no noise complaints. But if you have a noise complaint, sir, please call the Niagara Regional Police.
Call who?
Call the Niagara Regional Police, call 911. They will send an officer because they basically do the enforcement of the noise bylaw after hours for the town of Pelham. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's,
I never called because, and I never even said, the neighbors come back. How was it? I said, it was beautiful. I'm not going to say their kids are their kids. Everybody was a child
they're
at some
kids,
point,
but
and everyone
once
does
again,
that. Everyone's been there, done it.
we've all done it once or
But they have
twice.
young girls that have to hear it, so that was my
But the
only
best,
concern.
your best solution to noise complaints after hours is to call the Niagara Regional Police. Okay?
And so yeah, just not only that, but even sitting in my backyard, it's the existing structure. Like I said, the parts of the pergola went flying into my property. They were tapped down a few times.
And part of this application is to remove those existing structures?
It's been sort of fixed now. Yeah,
No, I was
Okay.
just going to say, they're going to improve it. So I
I know. It's,
I see it as a contradiction. They're going to change it. I assume it's
further
going to be
back.
artistically and architecturally sound.
I
and-
wouldn't do it any other way.
Well, I would think that. So wouldn't that be to your benefit, sir?
it's going to be longer.
Yeah, I
Because
understand.
right now, that shed that's there is pretty ugly too. Now this thing's gonna extend, not as far back, but it's gonna be
That
extend
shed's
further
going.
back. I know it is, but this is gonna be close to there. That shed, it's like, this thing's just over the fence. I still think, even for all the neighbors that live there, when people walk around the block, people go for walks, they shouldn't have to see people's sheds. I think they should be hidden. Just like the other one, the new proposed shed. I don't think it should be allowed to be there. It should be behind his house. And I don't think it should be that far back. That's just my view, and this is,
Okay.
and originally, the original developers, when they developed, or when they thought of the way Timber Creek to be, that's what the way they wanted it, that's their vision. And now the 10 years are up, and now the town of Pelham's taken over, and it's open to all of Pelham. Whatever people do in Ridgeville and Fenwick, all the farmers, everybody else, everything's open, you can do anything you want now. Which I think there should be, specific bylaws for specific areas.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mr. Baronet, can you do us a favor, through you, Mr. Chair, sorry. Show that drawing again with the colored, yes, and could you explain it once
like to
more
see.
so that we could,
Currently, the pink is the rear of the house.
Sorry,
The
Oh, go right ahead.
that's right, yeah.
upper sort of square shape is the current pergola, which looks like this. And I'm assuming that's what you're saying. A piece of it flew into your yard.
A few nails kept it down, a number
of nails,
over the years, yes.
And then there is a portion which is uncovered. And this is the existing rear shed now.
Right.
So the green all comes out and is replaced with blue, which is similar in scale to sliding this green there.
So it doesn't go back as,
It won't
again, the
go back
shed's
as-
gone, so
It won't
it's
go
not
back
going-
as far. It'd be
You don't have the
less,
shed in the way.
less visible from the trail or the line road.
This point doesn't bother me, it's this point. It said this enough caused enough noise. Now it's twice as long. This could be turned this way and could run all the way to the back. I don't really care, as long as it's within the setback or the variance. That's what I'm saying. I think it should be left alone the way it was originally set up.
Okay. And you're maintaining the interior side yard setback. That's not
Correct.
okay. It's just it's going further back into the allowable encroachment.
That other shed that's holding storage stuff, that's not gonna have anyone in there. It just has all those activities, okay?
Okay. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
so my big concern is the new proposed shed, I don't know whether your drawing is there, but just because people see it as they're going down the street there, I guess that's it.
Right.
there's fencing there, right?
Could you also give us an idea? We don't have elevation drawings to look at. Where's the roof going to be relative to the pergola?
The bottom of the roof it'll tie into the line of the existing house, and the top of the roof of the new structure will be subordinate to the house's roof.
Okay,
It'll be lower than the house's roof.
right. Okay. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you. Yep.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Just one
Oh, so
final-
just that other drawing and stuff, yeah. You had this one over here? sort of see the, like, just, this is really small, but yeah, this shed over here, see the way, yeah, I think Brian probably wants to see it. So people come in and out of the neighborhood. Right.
Yeah.
And this is open gate, that's an open gate. People already have to see the city structure as it is. Now they're gonna see two of these structures. I think they should be behind the house.
Well, now, to be fair, you know, Mr. Hachikowski has hired an architect at, you know, not inconsiderable expense. He's not just buying the Home Depot slapdash kit and knocking it up here. You live up there, well, yes. Right, I'm, again, well outside the scope of this application, but it is then something that we consider that, you know, this isn't the 50-year-old tin shed that he found on Kijiji getting dropped on here.
Correct.
As it-
If anything, it'll increase the value of the house, not decrease.
It could be, and right, but okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Just one last, I
You're
think,
gonna say something? Yeah.
well, just, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name right, Cianfreni.
Yeah.
I just think the best comment was that there is a pergola there and a porch, and he's never had a noise problem
With the
with
Hachikowskis.
the owners.
Right,
I think that's an important part.
okay. Thank you.
Just people ringing my doorbell all the time, but at all hours, but that's different. I'll call 911, but
You'll see more of this.
Okay, are there any other applicants, or,
I would like to say something.
sure.
Jody Orr, 91 Timber Creek. I'm actually not sure where to begin here because there are bits and pieces of everything I would like to comment on.
Please try and
First of all,
limit your
I have-
comments to the application at hand.
Yes.
And not the personality or behavior of the Hachikowskis.
Right.
Thank you.
Now, I know that somewhere in your report, which we did read, there was the word rumor. And I would like to say that we are basing this is kind of our last plea, and what we are saying is not based on rumor, it's based on what we see and what we hear. I have probably no hassles with whatever you design, I'm sure it's beautiful. But we moved on to Timber Creek 2 years ago. Had we seen and listened to what we see and listen to now across the road, we never would have bought that house. The noise is a factor. I'm not talking about porch noise and parties. I'm talking about the muscle car that he has in his driveway.
Okay, I'm going to stop you
Oh,
right
no,
there.
no.
No, I am going to stop you right
I
there
know.
as the chair.
I know.
I asked you to keep your comments to the application at hand and not to the behavior of the Hachikowskis.
Well,
And-
this relates to the shed.
Okay.
Because ever since he's moved in, he has spread out. He has spread out onto the street, the side street. He has spread out. And he has said to us that he doesn't really care whether he gets the variance or not. He will do what he wants to do.
Okay, so
And
Mr.
so for us,
Hachikowski
I would
will not be
agree-
able to do what he wants to do if he gets the variance or not.
Right, but I would agree with Dr. Cianfrani that in having that shed come out just a little bit more, instead of staying behind the house, it's one more way for him to spread out and for the rest of us to have to see it and listen to it. In the interim, since your building or planning report went out last Wednesday, he put a lift in one of his garages so he can store more cars. So yes, we are paranoid based on what we have seen and what we have heard so far. So to sum it up, sure, he can do what he wants to do, but please, can we keep it behind his own house?
Okay, thank you. Are there any other members of the audience that would like to speak on this application? Come on up, state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, I'm Bill Moyer at 14 Timber Creek Crescent, and I'm not like the Orrs where I don't look directly at the house. My only concern is the design of the shed, not the area where they're going to have whatever they're going to have, parties and so on. To my mind, the shed is huge. You know, it's 18 feet by 11.6. That's a fairly large shed, and I guess that's why people would wonder what he's going to store in there. My concern is the design of the shed, and I'm wondering is there any control on the architectural design of the shed relative to that area of Font Hill?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, there are no architectural designs on the building of a shed. And I don't believe that there are any in any areas of the town.
Yeah. Well,
Maximum height?
There, right.
But in terms of design, there are no architectural controls on the type of design.
okay. So, I mean, if someone is driving into our neighborhood and the shed is there, and the individual puts a corrugated roof on the shed, that's quite acceptable.
That is their prerogative.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a concern I've got, because that certainly would demean the quality of our neighborhood. We have one corrugated roof that has caused a neighbor of mine untold trauma down through the last few years, who has since vacated the property. He's gone somewhere else. But if it's got an appropriate design that has a continuity to the rest of the homes and his home, then I have no problem with that.
Right.
My only concern is that if he decides to put a roof that lacks continuity. Okay? That was my only concern.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other audience members who would like to speak on this application? Okay. Members, do we have questions, comments, concerns?
I guess my next question would be, do you have any design ideas there for that particular shed? Are you dealing with that particular?
At this point in time, we have not designed the shed. The only comments I have heard from the Hachkowskis is that they would like to have a peak roof with a gable in one direction and a cross gable in the other, as you can see by the sort of L shape, creating a little porch area out in front so that they could sit at, and it would look attractive from their sitting area to look at as a backdrop in that area of the backyard. They would like it attractive. I don't think there's any intention to do a corrugated roof or anything of that nature here.
May I ask one question to this gentleman here?
Michael?
How high can that shed be made? Is it 12 feet or 16 feet? In Oakville, it was 16 feet. I
That's-
don't know what the rulings are.
That is controlled by the zoning bylaw. I don't think any of us have it in front of us, but what's in the zoning bylaw, he's not applying for a variance to that, so it will have to conform to the zoning bylaw.
Sorry, I don't have a figure in front of me either. I apologize, I didn't.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have a suggestion for a condition that all necessary permits and approvals be obtained before construction. Certainly, they
Certainly, yes.
will be controlled by that.
Right. Okay.
The building official, so.
In terms of my line of sight,
Right.
my sight looks right down there. If it's a very tall building, it
Right.
really is in.
Which is, I mean, it's going to have to comply with the zoning bylaw. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes. We are limiting discussion to the members. Mr. Cook.
Okay, from what I'm looking at the drawings and the plans, you want to reduce the side yard setback, which would be the southerly property line to the new shed, to 1.2 meters. That, have I got that part right?
Yes.
The existing setback is 4 meters. The existing side yard setback is 4 meters.
I believe it was all listed in the opening
On
comments.
the opening.
Because when I'm looking at the drawing you've given us, you said the required existing side yard setback on the drawing is 5 meters, and the little description here says 4 meters, so I'm not sure whether we're looking, I would think that Timber Creek Development probably has its own separate zoning bylaw. So I'm a little confused on the drawing marked A1, this particular drawing.
Yes.
It shows required existing side yard setback 5 meters, where in the notice we say it's being reduced from 4 meters to 1.2. I guess my question becomes, the rear yard setback, would appear that you want a 1.2 meter rear yard setback.
Correct. We're talking about the,
And now I'm talking about the side yard setback.
yes.
What, would it dramatically affect the property and the structure of the garage not to use?
There is no garage here.
Well,
That was brought in by others.
To me, when you get a structure that's 11.6 by 18 feet, that's almost a garage.
Well,
But it's called an accessory building, okay, under the terms of the zoning bylaw, it's an accessory building. I guess my question is, would it be detrimental to actually keep the existing side yard setback at 4 meters? So that particular shed would then have a side yard setback of 4 meters from the fence. It would definitely, the north side of your new shed would be behind part of the house, existing house structure.
no.
So I don't have, you haven't given me a good reason why it has to be reduced. If you can give me a good reason why we should be considering the reduction from 4 meter side yard setback to 1.2 meter, I'm willing to listen.
Because it would restrict the use of the backyard for a proposed future swimming pool.
But we could also reduce the size of the shed by 1.4 meters,
There,
the width.
From 11?
we could
from
change its
11.6.
height, we could change its depth, we could, there,
Right.
everything is variable, so.
So
Okay.
I'm kind of waffling on the reduction in the side yard setback. Now, my next question relates to the new structure that's going behind the existing sunroom. And I guess really what I want to know is what is going to be the rear yard setback between the edge of your new, I don't know what you want to call it, covered porch to the property line?
Approximately 9'1" or 2.8 meters.
Okay. I don't have any difficulty with that. By changing the rear yard setbacks, how are you going to be able to accommodate drainage from this particular site? I did not see, when I looked over the fence, I did not see any rear yard catch basin, so I have no idea where the existing drainage goes on from your site. And I noticed there is a condition being requested by the town engineer that a detailed drainage plan be prepared,
And that would be provided.
and that will be provided. And I am also, when I'm looking at that, I would like to see a final survey done of the finished lot grading plan, which can be recorded on record. Because in my past life, I have seen where lot grading plans have been submitted, new owners have taken over, and they have altered those lot drainage plans to actually make them so they didn't drain properly, as was the original design. So I'm more worried about leaving enough rear yard setbacks so that drainage can be accommodated within the property.
I understand your concern, and if you would like to make that a condition, then that there be a final lot grading, then
I think
please, by all means,
in
state
this
that.
particular case, because we are reducing both the rear yards, side yard and rear yard setbacks, I think a final, probably undertaken by a professional engineer or an OLS, be included as a condition. And, but we'll get to that later.
Okay. Do we know how big the existing shed is?
It's approximately 10 by 10. I don't
Approximately
have
10
an
by 10.
exact figure with me.
So we're, okay. So, and we're moving, yeah, okay,
Yeah, it's approximately 10 square meters.
Right.
versus-
okay. Okay,
The new shed's 207 square feet.
You can't take a car apart in 9 feet. It doesn't work. Nothing. As a guy with a little garage. Okay. Members, representatives, that's you. Do you have anything else? Committee members. This really, I hate to go back and forth on this because, one, it's not really the process, and two, I think we've exhausted quite a bit. I'll allow one question, and then we're going to wrap this up.
Good, I have a question.
Okay.
I've introduced myself. The question I've got is, if he comes up with an architectural design for the shed and the other part, is there any chance for the neighbors who are concerned about the design of this to have a look at it?
No. If he meets all the rest of the zoning bylaws, he's fair to put up. He's allowed to put up whatever he wants. Now, that said, his control is he's bought himself an expensive house in an expensive neighborhood, as has been pointed out. It would certainly be cutting off his nose to spite his neighbors to put up a tin shed.
Well, let me.
And that's one question, and we're there. As I said, we're not going to go back and forth. Thank you. Okay, so with that, I guess where we're at is we've had our discussion. I guess I'd just like to say, I'm going to sum this up. There's been a lot of concern brought up about how the Hutchkowskis are using their property. It's certainly outside of the scope of this process. We are considering changes to rear and side yard setbacks. Mr. Cook, I think you asked for a good reason why the shed's going to be where it's going to be. We were provided that there's a plan for a future swimming pool. That seems like a good enough reason, or it seems like a reason. It's not just there for anything else. I mean, if a guy likes horseshoes or whatever and wants a horseshoe pit, that's why he's coming through here. Again, I see a property. I understand that it's the entrance to your community, but I can certainly understand as a homeowner myself why you might want to keep a big open strip of grass in your rear yard rather than trying to break it up with buildings. So that's certainly going to weigh in on my decision. We have a fenced yard, we have an overall, we're removing some structures that don't comply. We're removing
The existing shed does not comply.
Right.
With the
So
existing zoning.
we're actually kind of improving the setbacks, or we are improving the setbacks in a lot of cases. We've heard that these structures that are being removed are not in good condition, so that's going to be an upgrade as well. And so that's kind of my comments, my summary of the terms and conditions. And so with that, are members ready to render a decision through a formal motion?
Well, I guess
Unless we have more comments or...
no.
Okay.
I'm ready for a motion if Mr. Cook is. That the application for relief for section 6.1 to reduce the required exterior side yard setback from 4 meters to 1.2 meters be granted. And also the application for relief for section 235 of the general provisions, which permits a 1.5 meter encroachment into the rear yard for unenclosed porches, balconies, steps, and patios. Relief from this provision to allow total encroachment of 2.8 meters for the proposed porch, resulting in a rear yard setback distance of 4.7 meters hereby be granted.
Okay.
And I base that on the following reasons, and I agree with all the reasons that the departments have given, and I congratulate them for their detailed explanations. First of all, the variances, in my estimation, minor in nature. and it's not going to affect the Steve Bauer Trail. There's going to be a new shed built, and I see nothing but improvements architecturally speaking. I think the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained as appropriate. Distance separation between the surrounding uses will be preserved, and there's spatial separation between the rear yard lot line and Line Avenue, again, the Steve Bauer Trail, which I'm concerned about. The intent of the official plan is maintained in terms of maintaining a scale that is compatible with the neighborhood and is considered secondary in scale to that of the dwelling, which is a very important point. It's secondary to the dwelling that exists. And you've taken care of the sight lines in terms of sun exposure and the residents' sight lines to my satisfaction. Fourthly, I think it's appropriate, desirable for the appropriate development and the use of the land in terms of redeveloping the deck and getting rid of the deck that's falling apart for some of the neighbors' concerns. And I don't think it's without prejudice to any other application that we've seen in this regard in this area. And as far as commenting agencies are concerned, there haven't been any objections from commenting agencies, although there have been obviously objections from the neighbors.
Right.
Subject, though, to the conditions that have been recommended, which be the grading plan itself prior to the issuance of a building permit, including proposed locations of the downspouts to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works, and also, if we could add that there'll be a recording of the final grading, as Mr. Cook suggested.
Something the wording like this. That
Perhaps
the
you can
applicant
help.
submit a final lot grading plan prepared by a professional engineer and/or Ontario land surveyor upon completion of the building permit.
Through you, Mr. Chair, is that not taken care of with the suggested condition from our Public Works Director?
The Public Works Director basically says the issuance, prior to the issuance, this would be
Okay.
upon completion of.
That the grading plan be checked after everything's
So
done.
submit a final lot grading plan.
Prepared by a professional engineer and/or Ontario land surveyor.
So now I'm
upon-
going to get very pedantic and say a final lot grading survey.
Yes.
So we submit the plan and then get the survey after.
This is, just so I understand, for the backyard, not
The entire property.
the entire property.
Entire property. Basically, you're not changing the front yard, so
Yeah.
that's not, it's only 2 or 3 elevations. You're not changing, you may be changing the elevations along the side yard.
It just doubles the cost of the
It's-
survey,
It's,
both
it's a
before
couple of
and
shots.
after.
It's a couple of shots.
Okay, excuse me. I prefer to have Mr. Cook's suggestion added to my motion at this particular point.
Could I just have that final wording, please? By a professional engineer or surveyor
Or Ontario land surveyor.
to the satisfaction of our Director of Public Works?
Yes.
And then finally, the other condition being that all necessary permits and approvals be obtained before construction. And if that is definitely a condition, then we are going by any of the bylaws and controls that the town of Pelham has for this particular area.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. You all set?
I am.
Okay, with that, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as proposed? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Go back to the top of the line here. We don't have, okay, and with that, we'll call file A16/2016P, Chuck Clemenhage and Tess DeRose.
Climate,
Clemenhage?
Lyman Hague.
Lyman Hague, okay.
Lyman.
I do what I can, okay. As a, yes, yes, please come up and have a seat. And I guess we start with you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. The following are the excerpts from the planning report from the town of Pelham. The subject land is located on the south side of Sumbler Road, lying east of Peahawk Street, being part of Lot 2, Concession 12, Plan 59R8038, Part 2, and known municipally as 136 Sumbler Road in the town of Pelham. The subject land is Zone Agricultural A. Relief from Section 7.7D is requested to allow a maximum accessory height of 6 meters, whereas 3.7 meters is currently permitted. The Committee of Adjustment in Section 45(1) of the Planning Act may authorize a minor variance from the provisions of the bylaw, subject to the following considerations. The variance is minor in nature. Increasing the maximum accessory building height from 3.7 meters to 6 meters is minor overall, considering the height and volume of trees surrounding the dwelling and proposed building. The increase in height will not overwhelm the existing dwelling and is considered minor, given the context and large separation between buildings and neighboring land uses. The variance is desirable for the development and use of land. The variance is desirable for the subject land as the utility shed will allow for proper storage of personal goods and property maintenance equipment with minimal impact, allowing for the appropriate development and use of property. The variance maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Increasing the maximum accessory building height does not compromise the general intent of the official plan because the use does not negatively impact any surrounding neighbors and the scale is appropriate given the rural context. The variance maintains the general purpose, general intent, and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Increasing the maximum accessory building height maintains the general intent of the zoning bylaw because the size of the proposed building is appropriate given the site's rural nature and still ensures that the dwelling is maintained as the primary use of the land. Adequate woodlands and distance buffer the surrounding neighbors. To date, the following comments have been received. The Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority noted that the proposed accessory structure will be located on an area of the site which is cleared of trees, vegetation, and was recently supported through a building permit for the dwelling. Seeing no encroachment within the significant woodland or floodplain portions of the site, the NPCA offers no objections. The Public Works Department offered no comments, and the Building Department noted that all necessary permits are required prior to construction commencing. Planning staff is of the opinion that the application meets the 4 minor variance tests laid out by the Planning Act. The application is consistent with provincial policies, the regional official plan, and conforms to the general intent of the town's official plan and zoning bylaw. The authorization of the minor variance is not expected to generate negative impacts for adjacent uses or for the community at large. Consequently, planning staff recommend that application file number A16 2016P be approved subject to the following conditions. All necessary building permits be obtained prior to construction commencing for the new accessory building. And that's the summary of the planning report, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So off to the representatives. Chuck and Tess, thank you for coming. Would you care to comment on your application?
Tess Rose, I'm the applicant of Sumbler Road. Just as it says, that pretty much sums up what we are here for. The main thing, we are 160 meters off the road for our house. So as you can see from the site plan, the proposed utility shed is even further back. So there shouldn't be any setbacks or issues from the front. And on either side, there's trees preventing any neighbors from seeing our proposed building or hearing us. So we hope that it wouldn't be an issue with any neighbors adjacent to us.
Okay.
It's all in writing, it's all good.
Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to comment on this application? Okay. Members, do we have any questions or comments for the applicants?
No bush parties. No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
I'm strictly curious on why the need for the additional height.
just it being such a large property, it's 19.6 acres, I believe. So just we have a tractor for farming equipment, just tools, and we're building the house and the shed,
Right.
hopefully. So just tools and just storage in general,
Okay.
living in the country.
The bylaw kind of allows just for like a residential style garage, and we kind of need, a lot of our stuff is a lot higher than that, and we would like to see a 14-foot high door, which would require us a 16-foot ceiling in this
And
40
then
by
you-
60 pole barn,
Right.
and it kind of,
Just moving. Okay.
yeah, goes up from there.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you. We had no representatives. Do we have anything to discuss?
No, Mr. Chair.
Place to park the dump truck.
I'm sorry?
Place to park the dump truck.
No, no dump
Man
trucks.
cave.
I work for Hydro, I don't have dump trucks.
Okay. Okay, I guess, members, are we ready to render a decision through motion?
I believe we are, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I will move that the application for relief of section 7.7D to allow a maximum accessory building height of 6 meters, whereas 3.7 meters is allowed, is hereby granted. The decision is based on the following. The variance is minor in nature, and the increase in height will not overwhelm the existing dwelling, as considered minor given the context of the large separation between buildings and the neighboring lands. The general purpose is to maintain the size. Proposed building is appropriate given the site's rural nature. 3, the intent of the official plan is maintained as the use does not negatively impact the surrounding neighbors. You're not very close to any existing neighbors. The proposal is desirable and appropriate for the development and use of the land, the utility shed that the owners are requesting. The application is granted without prejudice to any other application in the town of Pelham. No objections were received from commenting agencies or abutting property owners. And I think that the condition should be that all necessary building permits be obtained prior to construction commencing for the new accessory building to the satisfaction of the chief building official. With that, Mr. Chairman, I move that the variance be granted.
I'll second.
Okay, and we have a seconder. All those in favor of the motion? Okay. Thank you, motion
I
carries.
do have a question, though.
Go ahead.
That's a honking huge pond.
That's not a question, that's a
No,
statement.
but, no, my question to follow would be, is that naturally fed?
Yeah, it'll just be runoff. That's, there's no spring in it.
There's no spring,
No.
and you still have water.
Yeah. Yeah. We're actually, there's a drainage issue along there because of that creek that's just to the west of us. So the land was quite wet when we got in it, and it kind of flooded through, so we dug the pond to raise up where we're building, and
Okay,
it's kind of
yes.
nice that way.
Okay, yes.
Put a power.
So let's get the meeting adjourned and then we can move from there. We're not done yet, exactly. We do have minutes for approval.
So that's it.
But we're good. We're good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Application to approve. There are no applications for us. Okay. We have minutes for approval from the 3rd of May, 2016. Could I get a mover to approve the minutes?
I'll move the minutes.
Okay, seconder.
Are they my minutes?
Can we approve them?
You have to second it.
Oh, I was, okay, then, yes, you're right, I was here, okay. Yes, I'll second the motion. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries. And our last order of business is a motion for adjournment. Okay, Mr. DeMyrtle, Mr. Cook seconds, all in favor of adjournment? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get 2 signatures on the first decision, please? 1 on the second. Thank you, Christina.
Okay, what did I do with my pen?
That's the first decision. I stole it from you.
You did?
Well, you can't sign until I sign.
Power.
It just is the flow. It's not power. It's the workflow. It has to get through me to get to him.
Oh, I take